Anthony Harwig here with another YSN edition of Hot Corner. This edition I am joined by very special guest Morgan Howe. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me. What an honor.
And, we always ask this, YSN, we cover so many high school sports. So I want to start by just asking, what are your fondest memories from high school softball and travel softball and that part of your career?
Ooh, some of my greatest memories. That's kind of going back a while. I would just say, I know this is kind of, I guess, basic, but it's all the friendships and all the sisterhoods I've been a part of. With high school, you don't really get to pick your teams, and kind of cool. Like, I mean, you don't get to pick your teams. So it's cool to go to school with the girls that you're playing alongside, and you see them every day as normal people. And then, but from the travel side, you only see them as softball players. When you hang out outside of softball, it's a little different because you don't see them around school all the time. But I would just say just the friendships I've made. Kind of crazy to think how many different people you like walk in and out of your life, and the ones that stick around after all those years, and then the ones that kind of drift off. But just I would say the friendships. Honestly, those are probably the things I hold closer to my heart from those times.
What was your recruitment process like during that time? I know back in the day, recruiting was a lot different than it is now. What was your experiences like getting recruited as an athlete?
Yeah, so my experience is a little different. If I'm being completely honest, I was not a crazy softball fan. I did not spend my days and my springs watching softball. I actually watched a lot of baseball with my dad, and we watched football in the fall, winter. So I just wasn't a super crazy softball fan. I actually didn't know you could go to school and play softball at school for a while. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, Dad, guess what I want to do? Like, I want to play in college. If it means, getting my degree paid for, why not, So that kind of turned more into, I want to go to school to play softball, not really go to school. But again, didn't really watch much softball, wasn't really sure what schools were the big schools and what schools weren't. I grew up in San Diego, so the only school I really knew of was San Diego State. I did a lot of camps there when I was younger, but I think it was around my sophomore, junior year of high school is when I started getting looked at by Fresno State. Had a couple eyes from Michigan, and there was another school. There was a few other smaller schools that I can't even remember anymore. I never took visits, but Coach, I think it was Coach Pick and Coach Dubs who fight over seeing me first. But they started showing up in my games. I didn't really even know who they were showing up for. I just saw, the Bulldog, sitting in the stands. And eventually my dad let me know that they were looking at me. And when he first said Fresno State, I didn't even know where it was. But I went on my visit, fell in love with Coach Ford, total mama bear, felt like home instantly. And junior year fall time is when I verbally committed. And then my senior year, obviously, you sign your NLI. But yeah.
Well, it's funny that you say Michigan because that was really far away from you all the way over on the east. Were you thinking that you wanted to travel more, or did you kind of want to stay on the West Coast and stay close to home?
So Michigan was kind of a weird kind of story. Me and my teammate at the time, Mika, we went on an unofficial visit there, I think, like our freshman or sophomore years, just a super quick unofficial. And Hutch and Bonnie would come see my games a little bit, but I think that they wanted to see more power out of me. And at the time, I actually was still kind of short and still really small. So at that time, it ended up not really working out. So kind of lost contact with them just because I was so small. But yes, very close or very far away from home. Personally, I wasn't sure what I wanted. All I cared about was playing softball. It didn't really matter where I was going. But I didn't really care to be far away, didn't care to be close. But I think the way that it ended up working out, I was just far enough away. I could still come home and drive home and see my parents on the weekends, but I was also far enough away that they couldn't just show up unannounced. They had to let me know. So something like that. But yeah, definitely very different. My family's also like been diehard Ohio State fans, so that's kind of weird for them to see. But
well, people up here in Ohio are gonna like that that's a thing. So there's gonna be that connection there.
yeah.
How did that happen, Ohio State fans?
Okay, so my grandma, so my dad's mom, her mom's my great grandmother. They're all from Columbus, so born and raised, all that, and just been Ohio State fans ever since. And then obviously that gets passed down generation to generation. So.
Well, there you go, Ohio connection from Hot Corner special guest.
Right there.
Right there, got it. What was the experience like when you stepped on Fresno's campus and all of a sudden the reality hit that you were a Division I softball athlete and the expectations were a little bit higher and everything was taken a little bit more seriously? What was all that experience like going to the next level?
A little nerve-wracking. To me, I was never a part of those really big travel ball teams. I played with SoCal Breakers, a pretty smaller organization, somewhat known, but it's not a Firecrackers, it's not a Batbusters. We don't win national championships every year. So I came from a very small bubble. And so to me, walking onto campus, I kind of felt, wow, like amazing, this is what I wanted. But, getting to practice with all these older, experienced athletes, I was very nervous. I was like, I almost for a really long time was like, why am I here? I can't touch a ball. I apparently don't know how to throw a ball anymore. Outfield is so detailed. I thought I just stood here. It was very different. But it was all what I wanted at the same time. I've always been super, super passionate about softball. Come early, stay late. I want extra reps. I want to end on a good one. I don't care if I'm here for an hour. If I don't end on a good one, I won't leave. Just always been super passionate. I'm going to be there. I'm going to give everything that I have. But there was just a lot thrown at me at one time when I first stepped foot on campus. However, it was also so great to be around so many teammates and athletes that all wanted the same thing, all had the same passion, and all carried the same drive and desire. Because in travel ball, not every kid on the team has the same wants and dreams that you do. So it was just nice to be in an environment where every single person wanted the same thing and all of our whys were the same. So
you said you played for a small travel organization. Was there a moment when you realized that you were at that level where you could play Division I softball and that was a tangible dream?
It's tough because I felt like I know that I'm a good softball player, but I think for whatever reason or another, I always feel that if I were to go play with those, higher calibered teams, that I wouldn't succeed or that I wouldn't be good enough. It's really strange. I think I don't give myself enough credit a lot of the time, and that's kind of how I've always been going through every level of softball. But I think it was my senior year, because I won't lie, like, sure, I was from a smaller organization, but our team was freaking good. Okay, like we were some ballers, we were scrappy. But there was, I think my senior year, there was a Firecrackers team that we always went head to head with. It was it was the Firecrackers Brashear team. We always went head to head with them. And I think it was my senior year. I think it was our last summer. Their coach had asked me if I would like to play on their team for my last season. And a great opportunity. I was so honored to be asked, but in my mind, I owed everything to my coach who got me where I was going. His name's Mikamoto. So I stayed, probably the best summer of my life, just to go out with a bang, go out with my girls. But yeah, there was a moment in that moment I realized, like, wow, okay, so I could hang with those teams. But otherwise, it wasn't really about, it sounds really weird and really not competitive. Like, it wasn't about winning, but it wasn't really so much like, I don't need all the rings, all the championships, blah, blah, blah. Like, sure, is that great to compete for? I think just like constantly being the underdogs and always being underestimated and playing those big teams was probably way more fun than actually like being expected to win, if that makes sense.
I feel like, you know, you go to Fresno State and that team has to have that mentality because they're a mid-major school that plays a lot of big schools on their schedule. So a lot of times you probably walking into a game as the underdogs and that scrappy mentality. Did that go into your factors as you wanting to go to Fresno State?
So, like I said, I didn't watch much softball. So, perfectly honest, I didn't even realize that, you know, Fresno State softball, the Mountain West, isn't what the SEC and what the Pac-12 is. I didn't know. So, it really wasn't until we started playing that I realized how our conference wasn't as I don't want to say competitive because it's a good conference. There's some ballers in that conference, but it wasn't the SEC and it wasn't the Pac-12. It's not the conference you see. It's not the conferences you see in postseason every year. I didn't know that because I'd never watched softball. So eventually, as I learned and as I saw what our conference was and where we were kind of on that map, it was great. It was so much fun to be the underdog all the time. You know, every game was like, we have literally nothing to lose. Why not us? And so it was really cool to prove to the world. And I think my freshman year was that like awakening year of me realizing what college softball was, what it looks like, what schools are what schools, who's big, who's not, who's scrappy, you know, who's just has pure raw talent, things like that. So loved being the underdog all the time. Loved it.
You spent 2 years at Fresno State, and then you transferred up to Pac-12 play, Arizona State. You know,
yep, forks up.
Transferring is such a hot topic, and I don't think people focus enough on the why people do it, and they just assume things. Give you the spotlight of just, you know, what went into the decision, what your transfer process was like, some of the conversations you might have had with people while you were trying to make the decision, and things like that, to just kind of shine a light on the fact that every transfer is kind of different.
Every transfer is very different. So, again, didn't watch college softball. All I knew was consistency. And for me, that was, okay, I'm going to go to Fresno State and I will be here all 4 years and I will graduate with a degree from Fresno State. I've maybe heard a couple times that people can transfer. Of course, I had a couple teammates that transferred in, never knew how that worked. So my coaches that I was recruited by, so Coach Ford, Coach Pickering, Coach Wynn, and Coach Harder, they were my coaches my freshman year at Fresno. Then Coach Ford, Coach Stubbs, and Coach Harder, well, Harder wasn't right away, but they all decided to go over to Arizona State, which phenomenal opportunity. And they really stepped things up over there too. But that was really hard. I go into my exit meeting at the end of my freshman year and Coach Ford tells me, you know, this team needs you. You need to stay over summer and, you know, probably train with our trainer, get yourself right physically, get yourself right mentally. Because I think that you kind of showed yourself what you could do here and like kind of showed yourself the potential that you have to do better things. So, you know, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll stay over summer and you know, and then we get a group phone call and she says, hey, I just want to let you guys all know, and I need to hear it from me first, that I'm going to be taking this job opportunity at Arizona State. It's a life thing. It's a family thing. Has nothing to do with the program, has nothing to do with, you know, you guys as players. This is really hard for me, but it's more of a life decision than it is, you know, like a personal thing. So really hard to hear. In my mind, again, I'm supposed to be here all 4 years. Who transfers? How does that work? And I decided to try to get my permission to contact other schools because we obviously were going to have a whole new staff in, and I didn't know what that staff, you know, what their what am I trying to say? I didn't know what their like what their processes were like, what their goals were. You know, you'd think that they'd all be the same, but you know, some coaches are different. And, you know, all coaches coach different. They all have a different way of connecting with people. And so I'm a planner. I need to know what's going on. And I went into compliance and I was like, you know, I would really like my permission to contact other schools just so I have a plan. Because again, I don't know how this all works. And they wouldn't let me. They said that we need to protect our program. If you could wait until we have a coaching staff, you know, we want you to be able to give this coaching staff a chance. And, you know, of course, I can't say no, but, you know, I kind of was like, I still want to have a plan. And ended up saying, gave Linda Garden a chance, per se. That's what they wanted. And I also, again, don't know much about the process. I didn't realize you could transfer mid-year. Thinking about it, hindsight, I still would have transferred mid-year, even if I would have known about it. Just for the simple fact that at Fresno State, I developed really, really great friendships with a lot of the girls on the team. From my best friends today, and maintained our friendships while I was gone. But I don't think I could have up and left that team halfway through the year. Something about that just really grinds my gears. But I think it was definitely halfway through the fall that I knew that I wasn't going to stay the next year. With that being said, I also didn't know you could return. I didn't know that you could do all these things. But I stuck it out. I had fun. I actually think it was probably what was best for me. My freshman year, I felt Coach Stubbs and Coach Ford and that whole staff very detail oriented, like had so much information to throw at me. And, you know, I was just, you know, cross-eyed and like just in my head. And I think the very different coaching styles allowed me to just play my sophomore year. I took everything and I worked on it on my own, but I didn't have the pressures of them telling me I was wrong all the time, which, you know, was great now that I can see the difference between, you know, how to catch a fly ball and how not to. But I think just, you know, letting loose, being able to just play was nice for me my sophomore year. I think the process that I had was what I needed. But yeah, I realized through the fall that this probably wasn't the place for me anymore. This isn't how I was going to become the best athlete that I know that I could be, as well as, you know, the best person I could be. There's just something about being that your goals are too high that just doesn't sit well with me. So, you know, I had the great season of my life. I made a lot of great memories with my teammates that were there. And then what was really great was that my teammates, you know, in me talking to them about, you know, my experience and my journey and what I want out of these 4 years, they all pushed me. They all said, you know what, like, if this isn't for you, like, we support you in leaving. Like, does it suck? Are we all really great friends? Yes. But, like, we want what's best for you. So they supported me in leaving, and it was probably what made it the easiest decision to make. But, yeah, so then summer, I decided that I was not going to return to Fresno State and went through the whole transfer process. Fresno State tried to block Arizona State, saying that there was a rule in their handbook that if a coach leaves the school, that whatever school they go to next, they're blocking for 4 years. And they said that was in their athlete handbook. We went through the handbook, and there's no rule in there that says that. So we had to go through a whole appeal process, and it was a process that lasted way longer than it should have, was drawn out way longer than it have, but made it. You know, was able to go on my visit to Arizona State. Problem was they didn't have any money for me. And, you know, me now moving states, I'd have to pay out-of-state tuition and all those things. So I, you know, went on another visit to Michigan. I actually ended up committing to Michigan verbally right after my visit with Michigan. And I spoke a little too soon. I did not want to go all the way out there. I needed to be close enough to home. And that's when I realized I needed to be close to home. I realized I needed to be closer to home and be able to have my family come out to my games whenever they wanted. And I needed to be able to go home if I needed to. So, and plus, I mean, there was just Coach Ford, man. I love that lady. I cannot get away from that lady. There was no way. So I called Hutch and I said, Coach Hutch, I'm really sorry I spoke way too soon. I think I made this decision not for myself, more so for my family. A degree from Michigan is almost uncomparable to a degree from Arizona State. So, that's what my family wanted. But, me personally, I need to be closer to home. I can't. And she respected it. And then I called Coach Ford and I told her I wanted to be a Sun Devil. And, it felt like 2 years ago when I told her I wanted to be a Bulldog all over again. It was great. And then, and then I had the 2 greatest years of my life.
If my memory serves correct, your first game as a Sun Devil went very well for you, and you did pretty well in that first in the Kajikawa Classic, right?
I think so. I don't even, my memory is horrible, but
take my word for it.
I'm sure it was, I'm just gonna take your word for it.
But what was it like? Kind of, it's a new level. It's a new level of softball. It's a new level of expectations, and getting a new chance to kind of make yourself better. What was that process like?
I mean, again, all sorts of nerve-wracking all over again. I finally come into my own my sophomore year at Fresno State, and then now I'm like really rolling with the big dogs. These are some Pac-12 girls. I was nervous. Who am I? Some Mountain West kid, trying to compete in the Pac-12. But I think just how Coach Ford and Coach Dubs and Harger run their practices it's just so elite. We have so many resources, and it's just so fast-paced, really intense, really attention to detail, and all that preparation just makes you feel like confident and prepared to go into a game, no matter who it is. They make practice really, really hard so that the games are easy. And I did notice that at Fresno State, and that's why I loved it so much, because the practices were so hard that the games were easy. And then my sophomore year was kind of a little bit different. The practices weren't as hard, so the games seemed a little bit more challenging. I don't know about anyone else, but I would love to go into a game thinking it's easy, So just new level in terms of the players that I'm surrounded by. But it was nice to be able to have those intense practices and be a part of those really hard character building practices with a bunch of girls who are also talent wise right there with you. Like, you have to push yourself every single day. There was literally no days off. So it was what I didn't know what I wanted, what I didn't know I needed and wanted out of an experience. So I thought I knew what I wanted. Turns out there was actually something better that I wanted, and I had no idea until I got there. So
describe the personality of Arizona softball program and what the team was like, and what are some of your treasured memories of just being with that team for 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, definitely different than at Fresno. I would say that at Fresno, everyone kind of had a similar personality. And then I think at Arizona State, everyone had very different personalities, but they were all very strong personalities. Everyone was just super goofy but also serious. When it's game time, it's like, we're going. But, in the locker room, it's just, we're laughing. It's probably the goofiest thing I've ever seen in there. But just so many different walks of life, so many different experiences that these girls have all gone through. I know it was different. I think it was mostly different for me because I'm meeting people from different states. And at Fresno, everyone was basically from California. I think we had maybe 2 or 3 girls from a different state. And in Arizona, I mean, I'm the out-of-stater. So just a different experience. But again, everyone wanting to win, everyone just has that crazy psycho mental that, I'm going to be the best that I can be. We're all here to compete. Just amazing to be surrounded by a bunch of people that were, again, just as driven and passionate and psycho like me, you know?
Favorite memory with Coach Ford? What do you got?
Ooh, favorite memory with Coach Ford. Man, there's so many memories. I would have to say, I think some of there's two favorite memories. It was her 200th win, I think, as a Sun Devil. I think it was her 100th. And then, I don't know, we dumped ice on her, like ice water on her twice. Once my junior year, once my senior year. I know that my junior year was her 100th win, I think, as a Sun Devil. I think as a Sun Devil was her 100th win. And then my junior year, it was like a big but like career win. I can't remember the wins, which is really sad. But I think throwing ice water on her was my favorite. Because she was like trying to run away and like everyone was like boxing her in. It was a great time.
You know, people out here east, they might not know what the Pac-12 is all about, and give us some insight. I mean, so many historic softball programs in the Pac-12, from Arizona State to Arizona, Cal, Oregon, UCLA. What was it like playing in that conference, and every week is this a new challenge?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't think I've seen real movement, from a pitcher anywhere else in my life. I mean, sometimes I would just be standing up there in awe, like, how do you do that? You know, how do you do that? It just blows my mind. But no, I mean, it's being in the Pac-12 was I think just so much, just a better experience overall. I mean, you know, in the Mountain West in preseason, you only get to see these top 10, top 15, top 20 teams. In the Pac-12, you're playing a top 10 team almost every weekend. So in terms of getting yourself prepared for the postseason, I mean, I don't think there's really a better place to get prepared. You know, you do play, you know, some big dogs in the preseason from other conferences, but when your conference in itself is so strong that almost every weekend you're playing a top 10, top 20 team, I don't know how much better you can prepare. My first year, I was just so amazed because, you know, every week in conference, you're preparing for a different team. With that being said, you're preparing for at least 3 or 4 pitchers on that team, and not just pitchers, like good pitchers. So every week you have your machines throwing all these pitches, simulating these pitchers. And I again, so detailed. It was one of those things where I was like, wow, like they have to do all of this every week to make the game look easy. Like, oh, it's just so different, but I loved it so much. I mean, every week is so hard and so testing on your patience and your focus. It's just, I don't know, to be committed every single day of every week to preparing for just 3 at-bats. Incredible to me. It's just crazy. But it just made me so much better. And again, I didn't know I wanted those things until I had them and I saw that I needed them. So just crazy. I mean, and then my junior year, we ended up going to the College World Series, and I'm pretty sure literally half the teams at the College World Series were Pac-12 teams. So like, if that doesn't tell you that our conference is extremely strong, I don't really know what does. So
then you end your career at Arizona State, and I imagine you probably think that's your last softball game. But this week, turns out it's not your last softball game. You're going to be playing professionally with Athletes Unlimited. Mm-hmm. What is that moment like when you realize there's another level to get to and your name is called to get to it?
Yeah, I mean, last summer was a pretty rough summer for me. You know, I didn't get drafted in the MPF draft in 2019. So, you know, when I was leaving Tuscaloosa, I was like, wow, this is really it. This is over. I did send emails. I did reach out to a couple of the MPF teams like, hey, like I'm a free agent. If you need a player, I'm right here. And no one ever got back to me. I did get to work out with Team Canada for a little bit. So that kind of raised my hopes up. But then my citizenship piece isn't going to go through for a couple more years. So obviously I can't continue to work out with the team. So then I just went right back down. And after that, I think was when I was really, I almost lost like all hope. I was like, you know what, I think this really is it for me. Like I'm trying so hard and my hopes get a little bit up and then just the down just kills me. So there was a tryout in February for actually a new MPF team, California Commotion, who I signed with back in February. Was really super excited about that season. And then COVID-19 canceled our entire season. It was going to get moved to fall and then didn't. But then I saw this Athletes Unlimited opportunity. And at first I was kind of skeptical because I didn't really understand the layout of it. I think that's mostly just because I didn't take the time to really truly like dive in and understand it. But in my mind, I was, back before COVID hit, I was just going to let Athletes Unlimited ride out, see how it went. If the first season went really well, then maybe try next year to get in. But when COVID canceled the MPF season and a lot of actually my teammates that also signed with California Commotion, I saw signing with Athletes Unlimited, I was like, maybe I should try this out since it's the first year anyways. So I ended up texting Victoria Hayward. She is a part of the Canadian national team and she's also a part of Athletes Unlimited, asking her if there were any openings. And she told me that there was a, like the reserves list was open. And I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'm there. I pray that no one gets hurt or no one has to like sit out. But in the case, I would love to be part of the reserves. Like that gives me a chance to play. I want it. So the morning of my Zoom call to kind of, go over how it works, she actually texted me and said, we actually have a spot for you if you want it. And I, without hesitation, obviously said yes. So now I'm just extremely excited and my, hopes are all super high again, but you do it for the things you love, right? No, I'm just really excited. My senior year in Alabama, I felt I was the best softball player that I will ever be. Like, I feel like I finally had everything clicking. I had all the knowledge. I knew everything. And so to like, your season's done, you will not be competing again in an Arizona State uniform or anyone's uniform for that matter. It just really sucks to be so hungry for, for more and so hungry to compete and you literally don't even have a team to compete on or with. So, this experience, I'm beyond excited. Excited doesn't even, man, and then also, oh my gosh, the people that I'm about to play with, like, wow, not that I was ever a softball fan, but like, as I've been learning, I'm like, oh my God, these people, like, and like, I'm on that list with them. It's crazy. I never thought, but here I am. Just, yeah.
What was the one player on that list that made you the most starstruck that like maybe if you step on the field with them, whether it be on their team or not on their team, you're going to be like, wait a minute, let me take this in for a minute.
Okay, so if I'm being honest, when I signed with California Commotion, I was looking at who else had signed, and AJ Andrews was someone that had signed. And again, not a softball fan, had no idea who that was. That sounds horrible because how do you not know who that is? So obviously I Googled her name and it's like, oh, the first female Golden Glove winner. And I'm like, as an outfielder, what? You're lying. So being in her presence is probably where I'm going to be like fangirling a little bit because growing up, the only Golden Glovers I've ever heard of are baseball players. So, to know that she was the first like female, just crazy. So that was probably So when she was on California Commotion, I was like, oh my gosh, wow. But now that she's going to be playing with Athletes Unlimited, and there's a chance that I can play against and with her, just starstruck.
Athletes Unlimited is kind of changing the whole game. It's so drastically different than anything that professional sports fans are used to. How is it explained to you as what they're going to do and how things are going to be run?
Right. So how they explained it to me was, everything is owned by the players, run by the players, all the players. There's no outside influence. And basically, you get ranked 1 through 56 every week, and your top 4 players are your team captains. They draft their teams with the rest of those 56 athletes. And then you practice together that week. And then I'm pretty sure it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You play 3 games, like 1 game Friday, 1 game Saturday, and 1 game Sunday with that team. There's a whole point system that obviously your team points weigh more heavily. Your team points are games won, innings won, and then you have your individual points, single, double, triple, home run, stolen bases. Your pitchers are every out recorded, I think ERA, things like that. But based on your points is where you rank at the end of the week. So essentially, you can fluctuate every week. You could essentially have 4 different captains the next week. I think it's extremely cool because it gives you the chance to compete with different athletes and against other ones, but then the next week maybe be on the opposite side of it and with a whole different team. So that's kind of how it was explained to me. Definitely highlights the team part by making your team points outweigh the individual points. But it's also a way to kind of see, okay, like who are the best of the best, so.
Seems
cool.
like the professional softball word is growing so much. I'm sure in the climate where you were growing up, the idea of a professional softball player, even though you weren't a softball fan, someone that was a softball fan, even the idea of a professional softball was alien to them. How proud are you to be a part of something where you can grow the professional softball game? So maybe, 5 or 10 years from now, girls can grow up with the aspirations of being a professional softball player.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm truly honored. It's, to grow up not knowing, not even thinking of professional softball as something that I can do, to now be someone that kind of paves that path. I mean, now there's little girls that, there is professional softball, I want to play in it. I mean, it's just an honor. I mean, this sport has grown year after year. And to see it continuing to grow is it's just incredible. I mean, I have such a passion for this game, and if the little girls of my generation can grow up and go play professional softball and make a true living out of it, I mean, I feel like then I've done the game justice, if that makes sense. I feel like I've done my part in helping build that. So how nice would that be to be able to play softball the rest of your life and that's it? I mean, I would love to do that, but to be able to give that opportunity to girls in the future, I just think is probably even more rewarding.
Now that you kind of look ahead, what were some of the things you're kind of most excited about just getting back on the field?
There's a lot. I mean, you can't replicate games and you can't replicate competition. You just can't. I mean, you can go out and you can practice and hit balls and field balls and run bases and whatever, but I mean, there's no other thrill than actually doing it competitively with another team on the other side trying to beat you. I think I'm just excited just literally to compete. I mean, win or lose, I'm just thankful to be out there on the field, be in a uniform, be a part of a team. So, I mean, that's just what I'm most excited for, is to be able to suit up and just be there.
The quarantine has kept us in the house for the last couple months, and we kind of ask everybody this. What has been your favorite kind of quarantine in the house activity?
I mean, I can't lie. I'm a sucker for movies. So being able to like sit down and basically have a movie night every night with my family has been really fun. The last 4 or 5 years I've been at school, so I haven't seen my family except for on the holidays and sometimes the summers. So to be able to spend so much time and almost like live at home again, it's been nice. I think we're all starting to drive each other crazy a little bit, but just, yeah, watching movies, eating popcorn and maybe some candy, maybe some ice cream, like, you know, just all together, just watching a movie. That's probably my most favorite activity in quarantine.
Well, what's been the best movie you've seen during quarantine?
Dang, it's funny because there was a movie that me and my dad were just both like, what is happening? And I couldn't even tell you the name of it. I couldn't even tell you the name. I just remember we were both shook the whole time. Like, we thought we knew what was happening, and then just it was not what was happening. It was not. So I don't even remember the name of it. That's going to bug me. Yeah, that's going to bug me. I couldn't tell you the name. I don't know.
Well, you got to spend so much time with your family, and I just want to give you the time to kind of spotlight their support over your softball career, what it's meant to you, and kind of give you the floor to kind of highlight them and the maybe unnoticed to everyone else the support that your support system gives to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for sure really lucky. My dad introduced me to softball when I was about 7 or 8. He actually tried to get me to play t-ball with like the boys, and I was not. I mean, I was no, thank you, no, thank you. My sister was the tomboy. She wanted to play with the boys all the time, didn't matter what sport. But anyways, my dad is the one that introduced me to the game, and it's been something that him and I have connected over since then. He's been my best friend for ever. That's my guy. I'm just super lucky. I mean, my dad was out there every practice, every travel ball game. We actually had a ritual every Saturday, Sunday, driving out to wherever we were driving out to. It was a sausage biscuit and a hash brown. I got a large water and he got a large Diet Coke. Can't tell you I drank the water, but it got drank. And just, I don't know, the time that he sacrificed to get me where I needed to be. And then my mom, she couldn't always make it out to my games. So, you know, still did her part in making us lunch so we didn't have to buy all the snack bar stuff. But she would get up early or stay up really late making our lunches and packing our snacks for the weekend. She booked all the flights. She booked all the hotel rooms. I mean, just, you know, when you're that young, you don't really understand the value of a dollar. And now thinking about all of those trips and now thinking about how much all that might have cost, I just don't even have words. So for them to be able to figure out how to get that done for me, I mean, I can't thank them enough. You know, they always just kind of joke around with me like, you better not put us in a retirement home, you know? So if that's how I have to give back, that's the only way. But no, and then my sister, my parents are crazy, man. Like, my sister played water polo and basketball. Eventually had to decide between the two because in high school they're the same season. But man, like, even though my dad was a coach on my team and had to be where I was also making sure that he was at Lauren's water polo games, you know, at all of her events, taking her to practice, things like that. I mean, I don't know how they balanced it all. And then I also have a brother who wrestled. So on top of that was getting him to practice, making sure they were at his matches and his tournaments. So again, just, I don't know how, I really don't even think I can wrap my mind around how they balanced their job and paid for all of our extracurricular activities. So, I mean, thank you is definitely not enough, but just, it's been really what I've experienced and the things that I've gotten to do. I'm so incredibly thankful for it, even when it was hard, even when it was tough. I'm just so thankful that I had the opportunity to do it, and I wouldn't have been able to even think about those opportunities if my parents weren't able to sacrifice their time or their efforts or their money to get me in those positions. So just crazy. They're crazy. All I can say, they're crazy.
It's crazy. It's definitely a lot of sacrifice to get to the level that you got to, and I think it's important for people to know that. And I just want to thank you for your time and your expertise, I'll call it, your knowledge, and we definitely look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. This was great. I love kind of reflecting on all of it,
Yeah.
Kind of a full circle feeling.
Full circle.
Yeah.
And as always, forks up.
Forks up, go Devils,
Forks
as
up.
always.
All right. Thank you again, and we look forward to hearing to you.
Yes, thank you so much.